Hello and welcome to the Womb Centered Healing Podcast. I'm Sama Morningstar and I'm delighted to have Rafeal with me here today. Rafeal was one of my original summit speakers. I think that was it were you in the, which summit were you in?
Shakti.
Bodied Shakti. Were you in the one before that too, somehow?
No.
I don't know. It seems like you were one of the very first interviewees in this.
Wow.
So that's why I'm thinking, but I don't know. I keep having these like past and future experiences.
We just feel like we've known each other forever.
So I'm very glad that we get to come on here. And we did do a podcast interview before, I think,
Yes.
too, as well. And so I'm really delighted to talk with you today about your planning a retreat that you're hosting coming up. I think, well, I'll let you tell about it so I'm not fumbling around with my, I have so many things and I can't keep everything in my brain. So
I understand.
I'll let you share about it, share a little bit more about yourself and this retreat that you're planning coming up.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you so much, Sama. You're wonderful. It's always wonderful to be on with you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm planning, or it's already on its way. It's called Bless My Soul Retreat, May 15th through the 18th. And it's open to folks who identify with the feminine experience. So I'm less attached to if people are calling themselves female or trans or woman. It's if you are connected to the energy of the feminine, then this will be something that you'll resonate with. And really, it's an opportunity to, I'm calling it rest in order to manifest. It was birthed out of my own experiences with retreats and feeling like oftentimes they were overscheduled. Like they're wonderful, but there were just all these things that I felt like I needed to go to. And there were times that I just like, can I just slow down for a minute and just reflect and learn and connect with other people. So we are going to spend a few days, 3 days by the ocean. And it's 3 days of meditation, of visioning, of connecting with like-minded people, and most of all of healing. Because when you're trying to manifest a dream, really what you are doing is healing yourself so that you can make room for what you really want. And I have discovered that over the years, that if you're not fully participating in your healing journey, then all the rest of the stuff is really not, it's not going to line up the way that you want it to, because in order to even ask the question of what you really want, you often have to get past all the crap, right? So for instance, if it's like one of the women who have signed up said that she wanted to manifest her voice, a strong voice. But the healing that she's looking down is all the places where she has shut herself up and where other people have shut her up. And it, just even in the course of thinking about going to this retreat, she's been like, I'm now having to figure out how to refine what it is I really want, because just discovering my voice is not quite it. And I was like, that's the process. That's what I want to see. Is so that when we finally get there and we're talking about practices that we can do and that we will be doing in order to manifest, you'll already have some things in place. So yeah, that's really what it is. I'm super excited. I've wanted to host a retreat of my full own for a very long time, and quite honestly was terrified, right? Because I was just like, this is such a big ordeal, and it's also holding people where they are. It's offering the spiritual, the mental, and the physical knowledge that has been passed down to me and that I've utilized in my own life. And I felt a little like, who am I to be so bold to say that I have something to share for you. And I had countless people asking me, like, when is your retreat? When is this happening? When is that happening? I was like, okay, it's just time to make it happen. So this is the first of God willing, Goddess willing, many. And I'm starting really light. And that's why I want it to be, or that the intention is for it to be mostly restful and very prayerful. And we will be utilizing practices that everyone can take home so that they can continue to manifest things. Because I really do feel like we're in a time when playing small is just no longer available. I'm at least at that point in my own life where I've done all the small moves that I can do. All the ways that I can play small, I've done them. And I'm now only left with the things that I'm like, oh my God, you want me to do that? And I've been avoiding that for years, trying to be like, okay, well, let me see if I can get this done first so that I could feel more ready for this big thing, right? And I've run out. And given where we are on a macro level, right? Like where the planet is and the suffering that's existing, the violence that we see, and even on a micro level, right? Like the toxicity that we see in our own families and in our own relationships with each other, we have to support each other in making these big moves, because when you make a big move, that means that a lot is at stake. And you can lose a lot, but you can also gain a lot. And we are social creatures. We're not meant to do these things by ourselves. We're not. So this is an opportunity to have that, to be able to sit with other people who are like, yeah, I'm trying to play big too. I'm trying to make something happen. Okay, let's get there. And instead of it being a like, let's push through, you can do it. I'm cultivating that feminine energy of grace. Let's manifest with grace and ease and love, compassion. Because it's that patriarchal, westernized, colonial thinking that also got us here. Like, you have to push through and you have to get it there. And like, yes, we do need discipline. And how do you couple that with being restful?
So many questions I want to ask you. And I'm learning to, in these conversations, allow that pause to let that sink in. How do we, that question that you just asked, for all of us, how can we couple or marry in a harmonious partnership the discipline, which may look like, doing tasks in a regular rhythmic fashion, taking care of everything that needs to get done, having a plan, having a timeline, having a structure,
right,
that holds the creative process, and marrying that with rest and flow and open-endedness and grace. And I feel like we can't have one without the other. I can't have one without the other. If I don't have structure that's guiding me and organizing what's happening for me and supporting my vision and my goals, then if I don't have that, then my various flows and inspirations just spill out and evaporate. It's like a river that doesn't have any banks turns into this thin film of water across the surface of the earth and then evaporates into the sky, and there's no longer a river that's flowing anywhere, right? It's
exactly.
just it. And so that, that harmonious partnership between this and that resting, that importance of rest and
Yes.
and gestation and having taking time to be with what's in the unknown realms and what's yet to emerge, and give ourselves nourishment and healing, like you were talking about, of obstacles, things that might, past experiences that might still be, we might still be fostering fear about, or pain, or holding or festering with pain around, that those things get in the way of the full fruition of our dreams and goals. And so I'd love to hear more about that. What kinds of healing modalities and practices will you have available during this retreat, or do you find to be the most helpful for yourself and your clients when you're helping us work towards our goals and dreams?
Yes. So what the ones that I'm pulling from to bring to the weekend are, first and foremost, meditation. I serve and am a priestess of the goddess Oya, who is a Yoruba goddess of change and transformation. Her natural element that she utilizes is the wind, hurricanes, and tornadoes. And what I've learned most from her is to not get caught up in the chaos, right? Like in the center of a hurricane, it's like nothing is happening. But everywhere else, it is absolute chaos. And sometimes you can't help it. And chaos is how the universe works. Change and chaos is just what it is. Also, the universe is kind of violent, if you think about it, how planets get made and how they are destroyed and how things change. And so we have to find our center line so that we can observe what's happening around us and meet it with the appropriate tools and energy, as opposed to being swirled around by it. And in my time as a priestess, I'm coming up on my 9th year as a priestess, I have found meditating to be the most effective in bringing me back to that center. And not just sitting and meditating, but also cultivating the skill of how to bring that same practice in motion. Because really, a sitting meditation practice is a opportunity to retreat and do this practice in a safer environment so that you can take it live, right? So I want us to practice both of those things in order to have it built into the body and into the psyche, that you don't have to just sit for 30 minutes. You can also utilize meditation in your everyday existence. Also, we are going to be doing things like learning how to make spiritual baths. The spiritual bath, or Limpia, is so overlooked. I use spiritual baths when I'm sick. I use them when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling up. There's so much that you can get, and it's low-hanging fruit. It's low-hanging fruit. And there's a way to take spiritual baths that can be in the tub or in the shower. So we're going to talk about and learn how to make different kinds of spiritual baths that you can utilize throughout your life. So when you run up against something and you're like, oh my God, I feel so overwhelmed, what am I supposed to do? It's like, hey, you were going to bathe anyway. So why not utilize these plants? We have these plants. We have these, for those who can use them, we have aromatherapy. We've got so much at our disposal. So why not learn how to do that? And also, it's something that you can offer other people, right? If you are witnessing someone having a hard time and you feel like you don't know what to do, offering them a spiritual bath is priceless. It's what I've done numerous times. And every time those people have come back to me and been like, oh my God, that bath you gave me though, it's like, That's what I'm talking about. We're also going to be
questions.
Slow me down. Slow me down.
When you say that bath you gave me, you're giving people. You're not like giving someone a bath like you would a child. You're giving them instructions on how to take a bath themselves. Is that right?
That is right. So what I like to do is make a concentrate, which is what I'll be teaching people how to do. So I'll put all the ingredients together and then hand that over to a person with the instructions and let them take it on their own. Because that's also a way to empower the person, because all magic is participatory. And you don't want to get into, especially those of us who are feminine leaning women folk, our codependency loves to kick in and we do spiritual bypass. So we will try to do the spiritual work for other people because we can do it and we know we can do it. And you don't want to take that autonomy away from someone. So I create the bath and then I'm like, all right, now it's up to you to do the rest so that you are an active participant in what's going on. Plus, you get the added bonus of someone learning how to do this for themselves. Right?
So in the retreat, will you be teaching people how to formulate their own bath concentrate, if you will, too, and come up with their own instructions so that it's very personalized for what's going to work for them in any given situation as well?
Exactly. So we're going to go over some pretty, what I call standard baths, the white bath, a love bath, and a grounding bath. And in those instructions, we're going to be talking about how to personalize it, right? Because it's just like anyone knows how to make sangria, but how do you make it special, right? How do you make it just for this occasion? And so we'll be going over those kinds of things and how to utilize what's around you. Because I often get people talking to me about doing spiritual work and feeling like it's inaccessible because they're like, oh, I don't have enough money for, or I don't have that kind of store near me. And I'm like, we come from people who literally used what was in the kitchen. And so we're going to be going over like, yes, here's some of the things you may want to have on hand. Because as a witch, there's just certain things I keep in my house at all times. And you want to know how to use what's around you in case that thing is not available to you. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you can't take care of yourself. It just means that you need to be more creative. And how is that not God?
Right. Improvisation. You might not have a certain ingredient, but instead you have another ingredient, and oh, lo and behold, this other ingredient happens to have a quality that you didn't really realize that was going to be beneficial to you until you're in there going, oh, this is maybe a second-class bath, and actually it's the exact bath that you needed right now.
Exactly. And it also gets you to refine. Right? Because when I'm making spiritual baths for myself, if I feel like I might be missing an ingredient, I have to ask myself, wait, what is this bath for? And what are the things that I have that will get to that? Okay. Because when you just have it and you just make it, you're just like, oh, okay, you can end up going through the motions like that. And just creating something because that's the instructions that you were given. And that's not the kind of magic that I'm offering and teaching to other people. It's like, you never want to just be going through the motions. You always want to be present with what is happening and what you're doing and why, because these tools are about us healing. Like for me, spiritual practice is mental health. What I'm trying to do is get back and maintain my alignment with my highest self and therefore God, so that I can be the best version of me possible, so that I can share these gifts. And a spiritual bath is one of the tools that I use that help remind me of what that feels like and what that looks like. And you never want to do that just from a place of like, okay, so now I'm supposed to put this in, and then now I'm supposed to put this in. I don't do that with my food. You know, when I cook something, even if it's just something that's thrown together, I try to have a moment of, I want to put some love in this because I'm going to eat this. And I don't know who's coming over because I now have lots of family and friends. And I want to make sure that if I have to serve it to them, that they also get that medicine as well.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah. We're also going to be talking about working with the goddess.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I'm a priestess of Oya, and I am an Orisha practitioner. So we're going to be mostly going over the West African Yoruba deities, but we are going to include a few from Europe and a few other places around the world to really cultivate regular, everyday ways to connect to the divinity of the feminine in order to heal and get what we need and what we want. Mm-hmm. So those will be the main things that we'll be doing. And then also, of course, circling with other like-minded feminine folks. And like I said, a lot of rest. My original agenda was chock full, and I presented it to Spirit, and like 90% of it got taken out. I was like, wait, but I want to do this and I want to do that. I want to do this. And it was like, especially in the United States, we have got to learn how to do this different. Like people are burning themselves out. And I have amazing people in my life, amazing people in my life who are doing wonderful works and are exhausted, depleted, really sick, have disease. And so this is radical. This is going to be a radical kind of retreat where it's like we're going to be moving a lot slower because I'm wanting to support us in remembering moving with the earth and not on a clock.
Yes. And moving with our body, maybe moving with the body and.
Yep. And how to put that up against the fact that we do live in a society that does move with the clock. Right. So how do you have both of those things go on at the same time? And it really is a practice because it's something we didn't get here in one day. It took a really long time. Think about potty training, right? And being in school and sitting in your seat for long periods of time. That takes training. So this is what we're going to be doing over this weekend is training ourselves in how to restfully manifest our lives.
Beautiful. So it sounds like you have, some very specific spiritual lineages that you're working with and background. And I'm curious, but you're also bringing in like Limpia's, maybe there's a different term for it, for spiritual baths in the Yoruba languages and stuff like that. But did you learn Limpias from people who like a curandera who calls it Limpias, or you're just using that term because that's more familiar to people? Or
that's a great question. So it's for a few different reasons. The word Limpia was gifted to me from the Latin people that I grew up with. So I grew up around a lot of Mexican, Puerto Rican folks. And then within the Yoruba Orisha worship traditions, it's heavily practiced in Afro-Latino, Afro-Latinx communities. And so there's a lot of mixing of the two, right? So I'll go to a ceremony and I will hear English, Spanish, and Yoruba running around back and forth.
Okay.
People just come in and out, and it is a part of their everyday lives. So it's partially how I was taught, but also I have to give love to the amazing folks who were with me when I got my master's in women's spirituality.
Right.
That's also where I got to get more depth in my learning and in my study of spiritual practices around the world.
Beautiful. And so it also sounds like you're bringing in some European goddesses and traditional influences there. And and so I'm curious as to the population of participants that are welcome to join. Is it only for people that have this same spiritual lineage as you, but are bringing in different lineages, or can anyone from any lineage and ethnic background come and join you in the retreat?
Beautiful. It's anyone. Really, what I'm looking for is you want to have a connection to the divine feminine. And what that means to me is, you have an understanding of the living goddess and of how femininity heals, right? And creates. And I'm looking for folks who have some experience in actual practice, right? Because we're not going to be starting from point one. You want to have some information within yourself around, like even having the language of what spiritual bath is, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not that we won't be going over those things, but it's going to be quick, right? It's like, okay, we're going to be using a spiritual bath. Here's what a spiritual bath is. Keep going.
Okay.
We're talking about goddesses. Here's what a goddess is. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone who it's like, this is completely, absolutely brand new, I think it would be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got some sort of foundation and you've been practicing, and it doesn't matter if you've been practicing with other people or with yourself, because there are solo witches and then there are covens.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you have that, then you'll at least have something to build from in order
Mm-hmm.
to do what we're doing.
Right. And so when you say witches and covens, it sounds like you're applying those terms to a broad variety and quite a diverse collection of lineages. You're calling mm-hmm. yourself a witch. I mean, from my background, witch was used, well, the witches that I learned from were teaching more European
mm-hmm.
with a little bit of other ethnic influences,
mm-hmm.
which, could now be looked at as a little bit of appropriation, because they might not have been really right. honoring those traditions that they were.
Right.
But with my training and background, that became very important for me.
Right.
And so for me, bridging the term witch into inclusiveness of all of these traditions, the Yoruba tradition, the curanderismo traditions, and all of this, it's true. There it is, right there. We're just creating some bridges inside of me and creating this all-inclusive. Yep. Because that term witch to me sounds like, or it comes from Wiccan, right? Which is very much of a European-based indigenous tradition, granted, just as, often quite, or not often, which has been very much persecuted and oppressed, genocided. Is there a verb, genocided?
All these words are made up. Let's do it.
Yeah. So all witches then have that in common, whatever lineage we come from. So there we go. There it is.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I have repurposed that word in that way. Because there are, the tradition that I'm in, it's a Iyalorisha, right? That's the name of a priestess in my practice. And there is a different word. Ajay is the specific word to describe a witch. However, when I connected with the people in my life who were Wiccan and practicing witchcraft in its traditional form, it didn't look that different from what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of persecution
mm-hmm.
wasn't very different from the history and the traditions that I was practicing. And so one of the reasons why I want to repurpose that word is so we can normalize and understand that anytime we're co-creating with the universe, we're doing witchcraft. That includes when you make food. That includes when you grow something. You are in co-creation with something larger than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of it's also helping us reframe this idea that a witch is this bad thing that only wants to put hexes on people and is evil and trying to do something bad to you, and making it like that's not exactly what's going on. And I also want to uplift the invisible work that the feminine does, that just kind of gets slid over, right? So even when witchcraft is talked about in a way that's positive, it's like, oh, it's that woo-woo stuff that people do. It doesn't really work. But myself, the witchcraft that I'm doing, that's invisible work that I do, right? Like it helps to maintain my home. It helps to maintain the people around me, myself. It helps me to show up more for other people. And I want it to be like the word chef, right? Like every culture has, and I don't know why I keep coming back to food, so maybe it might be my ancestors because they're right
It's
over here.
getting up to be lunchtime, I think, too.
I just ate, so I don't know. But I'm thinking it might be my grandmother, because her cooking alchemy that's how she showed love.
Okay.
But every culture has a specific word for chef, but you know what that word means.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I say, "Oh, I'm a chef," it doesn't matter if there's if I use a word in Spanish or in English. You know what that means, and you know what the regard of that is, as opposed to a cook.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what I want for witchcraft. I want it to be like, oh, this is something that's uplifted, and that there's an understanding of the level of respect that goes into it, because the skill that I've had to cultivate in order to do this well, I have studied my behind off
Mm-hmm.
to get to this point that I can see my life running in a particular way based on the magic that I do and how I lace it into my everyday experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the work of the feminine. I'm done with, even especially those who identify as feminine, who identify as women, not just being looked down on and shoved to the side, because we do a lot of emotional work, or we help to keep the home. We do a lot of rearing and raising, and to me that's just as important as actually bringing in a piece of meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is considered more masculine. And it's not that either one of these things are exclusive, right? Like it's not just the feminine that does that. And it's birth out of, right? And so it's a way to also teach us how to value and recognize the things that we do that get overlooked.
That we might even overlook ourselves.
Exactly.
And then that feeds into that we don't deserve to rest because we haven't really done any work.
Exactly. That part. And then we don't understand when we're like, I don't know why I feel so depressed, or I feel so tired. I think I got enough sleep. It's all that stuff. But when I did a vision boarding with some of my friends during the new moon, and when they listed down, I told them, I was like, I want you to tell me all the things that you're doing right now. And of course, the first things that comes out of people's mouths are, I go to work, I have to pay these bills. And I was like, okay, so have you talked to your children today? Okay, that's something else. What are they going through? Oh, all these different things. And you walked them through that? Okay, mm-hmm. So that's a task.
Yeah.
That is energy that you exported towards someone else. Mm-hmm. Okay, so did you call your mom? Did you call your dad? What about all the prayers that you said this morning?
Mm-hmm.
What about you cleaning the house? Because cleaning your house is a spiritual practice, mm-hmm. right? And when I put it that way, they were like, oh God. And then they started a whole new list came out, and they were like, oh my God. No wonder I have no time. And I'm like, yeah, this is the invisible work that the feminine is just expected to do. I am just expected to hold up my entire community all the time, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. I am looked on to ensure that if my wife is having a hard day, like the expectation is she can fall into my arms. The expectation is she can fall into her home that I have been keeping the hearth going for, right? But it's treated like, oh, well, that's not work. You didn't do anything today. Prayer, anyone can do so. I'll do some prayer right now. I'm like, yes, anyone can do prayer, but the kind of prayer I'm talking about, when I'm sitting and praying for my sister friend's grandbaby who had a cyst that got infected so that she can come out of the hospital and be okay, that took a lot out of me. And I still had to do all the other things that I need to do in any given day. I still need to put new tires on the car,
Right. That reminds me, I have a few things like that I need to do today.
I'm saying. So it's once it's also building in, when we build in that level of recognition, then we can also really move our lives differently, right? And that's that piece I was talking about of really being careful about, what are you manifesting? What are you actually asking for? Having enough healing within yourself to say like, oh, wait a minute, I do deserve to be recognized. And I do value the invisible work that I do. I do value the places where I just sat with my cousin and just listened to them for an hour talk about a hard day that they had. That is valuable. And that is meaningful. And it should be seen by you and others, but it can't be seen by others until you see it for yourself, right? And so it's cultivating that practice for all of us, so that when we're forming our lives, we're keeping that in mind, so that, because I know I've done it. I'll speak for myself. I have manifested an entire life and been like, oh, I don't think I like that.
How did that go wrong?
How did that go wrong? And one of the things I've discovered is it was like, oh, these are the things that I didn't include, right? The last time I manifested my life, I didn't think about rest at all. I was just like, I have to be productive. I got to get this done. I want to make sure that this gets done, and that I have this, and that I have that. And it all came, and I was exhausted. I didn't get to enjoy any of it. And then I collapsed. So I was just like, oh, okay. This is the place where I see a lot of us get stuck. And especially Western culture of, you are only valuable if you can produce something that people can hold, that is in the physical dimension. And that is not true, because this world operates also on the invisible work of a lot of people, places, and things. I can breathe right now because of things that I can't see.
Right. And it's just not included in the economy, which is why it's crumbling. That's why the economy is crumbling, and why it doesn't work, and why so many people are suffering because of it. Because only the things where we're caring for each other, the people that care for other people and take care of each other, none of that is included as a valuable asset in the economy. And the environment, the nature, and all the things that nature does to create a livable and pleasant environment for us to be alive in, none of that's included as an asset or as a thing of value in our economy, because it's so skewed. I don't
and what are we missing out on, right? Like, just because someone is in a wheelchair doesn't mean that they can't do certain jobs. Right.
Well, it's like the elderly, I mean, in tribal cultures, the elderly are honored for the wisdom that they've accumulated, and have all these jobs that are precious, of initiating the young people into their wisdom, right? And telling the stories that help everyone to integrate and understand life in a rich and healthy and nourishing way, and so there's all these wonderful gifts that, again, in our economy and in our society, are undervalued and exploited. Even that's where exploitation comes from, and abused. So
Yes.
I'm sure we could go on and on.
I know, right?
I just so appreciate talking with you about all of this. So where exactly are you holding your retreat?
So the retreat is going to be happening near Asilomar in California, which is kind of near Monterey Bay,
Okay.
if folks aren't familiar with this area. And if people are coming from out of town, I am coordinating with them, so you don't have to feel like you're just going to be left out and trying to figure out how to get to where we're going to be. And the price is $2,100, and that includes the food, the instruction, the tools that you're going to be using. The only thing you need to bring is yourself and some change of clothes. That's it.
Okay. And is it at a retreat center where you're all going to be staying and sleeping in the same place and having all the facilities right there for you, or?
Yes, we're going to all be together, because that's a part of the magic that we're cultivating,
Mm-hmm.
is being in circle with people 24 hours a day, because that's also recognizing that invisible dream work together.
Mm-hmm. Can you share the name of the retreat center in case anybody wants to look at the retreat center and see if that's somewhere that they might like to go and stay for a little while?
Yes, it's Asilomar. It's real easy to find, Asilomar Conference Center.
Mm-hmm.
They can look it up online real easy. It's a beautiful place.
How do you spell Asilomar?
Absolutely. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do it in my mind's eye. Asilomar.
Asilomar Conference Center. Okay, so it's like the town conference center for that town. Okay,
exactly.
Because I know Asilomar is also the name of the town.
That is true.
Okay, and so how long is the retreat? How many days?
It's May 15th through the 18th, so it's 3 days.
Okay, and is that a weekend?
Yes.
Okay, so like a Friday through Sunday or something?
It's a Friday through Sunday. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And so, and you have cooks, or do they provide cooks at the retreat center?
They provide all the food.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
and
if somebody has dietary special needs, that'll
all be addressed.
Yes. And that'll all get all worked out.
Yep.
Great. And you say it's near the beach. Isn't Asilomar kind of on the beach, so you can
basically
walk to the beach from the retreat center and like?
Yes, which was purposeful.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Indeed. Wow. So is there anything else that you want to share about this lovely retreat for people who might potentially want to reach out to you and discuss the possibility of attending?
Yes. I am calling on those of you who have heard that call over and over again, and either have started or are too afraid to start and just need that extra support, that extra knowledge, that connection with other people so that you can move forward. I'm really utilizing Oya, which is spelled O-Y-A, if anyone wants to look it up. That spirit of fierceness and of warriorship, of change and transformation, so that we can really cultivate a better world.
Mm-hmm.
So come on, let's do it.
Let's do it.
In a way that is also not going to break you.
Mm-hmm. And then I have one other question that I remembered for you. So it sounds like you're creating this kind of place for retreatants to come and rest into your arms, similar to what you described with your wife having a hard day and coming home to rest into your arms, into the home that you're cultivating. And then you're cultivating this retreat space for a group of people to come and rest into, who may be doing that in their lives with all their loved ones, but don't have anywhere to rest into the arms of someone who can hold them. And so your arms are getting bigger and bigger and bigger to hold all these people. And you had to go find someplace bigger than your house to have everybody come and rest into this home environment. So you found this beautiful place on the beach where people can come and rest into your arms. So I'm curious, whose arms do you rest into? And when do you go on retreat? I want to hear about your retreat.
Yes. So I rest into the arms of my community. One of my traumas growing up is I was very isolated. and had no one to really turn to. So I spent a lot of time creating community for myself. So right now, my community has been showing up for me hardcore because I've just been, I'm just as scared as the next one in making these big dreams come true.
Yeah.
So I've been on the phone like,
Right.
I don't know if I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or just the everyday challenges of life. So I rest into that. I rest into the arms of my wife, and also into my ancestors majorly. Like, because when no one else is around, when I'm left with those thoughts that only I have and that I would never dare share, they stand with me in it and let me know that it's not just my arms. I'm not holding the people who are coming to this retreat. I'm a person. I can't hold that many people.
Right.
However, I am connected to and work with a spiritual realm that is infinite. And so who's going to catch everyone is that. It's going to be my ancestors. It's going to be the Orishas. It's going to be aspects of God that I touch into that is going to catch everybody, and me too. And then retreats that I go on, I do all kinds of things. I do staycations. Very important. And I love to tell people I'm going somewhere and I'm going nowhere. I also love, like, we're blessed to live in California is a beautiful state, and you don't have to go far to get nature as medicine. So I go to the woods, I go to hot springs. I often will go to a friend's house because I have friends that live all over the place, and they're always happy to welcome me into their homes and have laughter and rest and things like that.
Beautiful. Well, lovely. I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your invitation for those of us who are so busy with this invisible work of caring for each other to turn that towards ourselves, to give that to ourselves, and that we don't have to do that alone, that we can find a community, we can cultivate our own community at home, but we can also find a community of people that you're bringing together, and perhaps other places that we can, and other retreats and other fellow witches that want to come together and reclaim this tradition and uplift this tradition of co-creation with the universe, and value ourselves for what it is that we're doing as a revolutionary act.
Yes.
So thank you so much for bringing this wisdom. And where can people go to get in touch with you about this?
Absolutely. So they can go to my website, which is cypressdoula.com, cypress like the tree, CYPRESS doula.com. And to go specifically to the Bless My Soul retreat, you just want to go under conferences and retreats and classes, and it'll be right there.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again. And listeners, please reach out to Rafeal if this is of interest to you. And also, you're always welcome to reach out to me at wombcenteredhealing.com if you want to learn more about what's going on there, the producer of this lovely podcast. So thanks again, and that's all for now. Until next time.